to Business Masters Season 2, where we engage in in-depth conversations with visionaries who are reshaping industries and redefining the business landscapes. And today we are honored to host Mr. Rahul Kothari, Chief Operating Officer of Razorpay. With a distinguished career spanning over 2 decades, Mr. Rahul Kothari has been instrumental in steering Razorpay's growth and innovation in the digital payments landscape. Thank you so much for joining us on WION's Business Masters.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, thank you so much for your time. Of course, there's lots to unpack here as well, so let's get right in. Razorpay was founded in 2014, as you know, of course, and with the mission to revolutionize online payments in India. It's known as India's first full-stack financial solutions company. What inspired this vision, and how would you say it's evolved over the years?
Yes, Razorpay was founded 10 years back by our founders, and the entire inspiration at that time was from the payment integration that they were trying to do. They had their own startup and they saw getting an online payment was very, very difficult, right from, say, a technical integration to onboarding to KYC documentation, etc. So I thought, okay, if it's such a big problem for the entire ecosystem, let's solve for it. I think that's where the entire genesis of Razorpay getting into online payments started. Now, over the period of time, we realized that as we were working with more and more startups and helping them in their online payments journey, we realized there are also a lot of other challenges that they face. It's not only about the online payments, but also, say, accepting the offline payments. It's also about how do they make disbursement of the payments. So the entire money movement was fairly complex for most of the startups and for the founders of those startups. So that shaped our vision, which now is to make end-to-end money movement for companies seamless. We want the founders, we want the companies to focus on what is core to their business and leave the entire money movement part to us. And that's what has been driving us so far for so many years, and that's what we believe will continue to drive us for next foreseeable future.
Now, your career encompasses over 2 decades in the digital payments industry across multiple continents. How have these diverse experiences influenced your leadership at Razorpay?
Well, when I joined Razorpay, it was still a young company, 4 years old. They had a very great product market fit, and they were looking for how to scale from an overall go-to-market perspective for different merchant segments, for different markets. Now, given I had worked in multiple geographies earlier, I have a bit of experience in leading teams. I think I was able to really build the right kind of go-to-market structures, build the right kind of teams, which can work in this entire dynamic space and are able to do strong technology-led sales, technology-led marketing, go-to-market for the company. And over the last 6 years since I've joined, as a company, we have grown almost 20x. We have started with a linear go-to-market teams, with a linear product structure. Now we have much more complex platformization, both of the product and of the GTM structures as well.
All right, and of course, Razorpay, as you mentioned as well, aims to build the financial backbone for India's next wave of entrepreneurs. What does this mission mean to you personally, and how do you see it impacting the broader business ecosystem?
No, with this entire purpose and mission of helping the founders is very close to my heart. And the way I think about it, if as a country, we really have to make our mark in the world, a lot of innovations has to come, a lot of new things, disruptive things that we have to do. And that would be done by the startups which are really fueling the fire on these different dreams. Having said that, I think different companies and different stakeholders have to do their bit to make these startups really successful. And if you look at one common denominator across all these startups is about the money movement. Like money movement is the really oil that keeps the entire engine of the startups, the innovation, the growth keeps happening. And we try to make sure this entire money movement aspect becomes very simple and easy. If somebody wants to, say, start tomorrow a digital marketplace, it should be very easy for them to go online and start accepting payments. Very easy for them to do payroll. Very easy for them to get, say, credit through corporate cards. So all of those we really make it seamless so that the founders are really able to focus on their core job, do it really better. Eventually more startups succeed, India becomes stronger, we have more disruptive ideas. And this entire thought of doing our bit to make this big thing happen is what really keeps me driving and really invested into this vision of Razorpay.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned and you spoke about doing your bit, because I would also like to discuss some of Razorpay campaigns that have truly resonated with both audiences and entrepreneurs. It has time and again reiterated its commitment to celebrating the entrepreneurial spirit of founders with campaigns such as the brand film Believe and launching the country's first ever AI-powered print ad campaign, which was #imagined through AI in 2023. What's the thought and the vision behind these creative campaigns?
And so, while we are relatively larger company now compared to most of the startups out there, but at heart, we are still a startup. Our love for startup, what it has been when we started to even now continues. We have always built our products, we have built our value proposition for startups, continue to do so right now, and we will continue to do in future as well. Actually, we should celebrate startups, we should celebrate founders unconditionally, because these are the people who take those risks, who are ambitious, and they make it happen. And through their journey, some kind of help, support, recognition is required. And with this, we had like these two major campaigns I talked about. The first is this entire ad campaign or the TV the film campaign on Believe, where we spoke about the journey of a startup founder, which is full of challenges. Sometimes they feel low, but it's their resilience and belief in themselves which keep them going. And through that brand film, we celebrated this entire thing of self-belief. Then the other campaign you spoke about was about AI-generated images, where we, for 45 days, we ran a campaign in a publication celebrating 45 different founders with the AI images. Again, the entire idea is, how can we celebrate these disruptors unconditionally, make them to get recognition for them, because it's eventually these are people, in my view, which are going to change the trajectory for the country. Now, also we have one big campaign, another coming up, just to add, and we call it Next Big Thing. Now, with this, we are doing an ad campaign for a lot of small startups to really give them a platform that they deserve, where they can make their voice heard. This would be different startups which would be having a big ad campaign in Bangalore, where they can showcase their different products, their value propositions, so their voice could be heard. Again, this is our way of giving back to the startup system. And as you said, Him, it's about like doing our bit.
Right. And I just love how your answers are tying in with my questions, because speaking of the next big thing and talking about career trajectories, transitioning from Chief Business Officer to Chief Operating Officer, you've obviously overseen significant growth phases at Razorpay as well. What were some of the pivotal challenges during this journey, and how did you navigate them?
Sure, no, that's a very interesting question. So one of the biggest thing that has changed in Razorpay over the last 5-6 years which I've been, is to be a single product, single business company to a multi-product, multi-business company. Now, running, say today, 4 different businesses in 3 different geographies is not just a linear addition. It's like very complex building entire platform from product perspective, building a GTM motion. How do you think about even a brand? How do you think about some of our key stakeholders like startups, and building all those teams and structures? I think that itself is one very, I think, big challenge we had. I think also another very interesting thing I saw at Razorpay is that fintech ecosystem is very, very fast evolving. Say today there would be a new, say, regulation coming, which we had to kind of comply to, or with so many new other competition, new other companies coming in fintech, you would suddenly see, okay, the strategy which we made 3 months back doesn't really work, because so much has changed ecosystem, or a new company has come up with a new kind of a product or a new kind of value proposition. Or things might even happen like at a pace where things are changing so fast that from a normal running business perspective, very difficult to run it in a top-down manner, where you kind of really tell the teams that, okay, this is the strategy and that this is how you have to execute. So I think one very, very important aspect of running this kind of a platform business is, how are you able to create very strong set of leaders within the org, different kind of platforms where they are able to understand what is going in the ecosystem, what is the best reaction to it, what's the best way to grow it, and how do you enable them to really take the decisions and be be masters of their own journey. I think that's the second biggest thing I think we try to kind of really make it happen in Razorpay to make it successful.
All right. And of course, as you mentioned as well, with the digital payments market in India projected to grow exponentially, what do you identify as the most significant opportunities and perhaps challenges for Razorpay in this landscape then?
Yeah. Well, definitely digital landscape in India is destined to grow with so much focus from the government in general, like people taking it up really well. I think there are 2 or 3 things which still I think needs to be the transformation that will happen. Today, our overall person to P2M payments market, which is like person to the merchant, is almost close to, I think, $3 to $4 trillion. Or rather, it would be projected to grow to $3 to $4 trillion by 2030. Now, over there, there will be 3 major challenges that still needs to be addressed. Today, we are pretty strong as an ecosystem in the online payments or in the offline payments. There's still not a strong overall connection between online and offline, which we call as omni-channel payments. Like as a consumer, if I buy something online, if I buy something offline, for the same brand, the experience is very, very different. The loyalty points which might work in online does not work in offline. Sometimes inventory might be available in offline, not the inventory is not available in the offline. So how do you make this entire omni-channel payments very, very seamless? I think that's the one big next thing that is going to change. I think the second big difference, which I think from a payments perspective or a consumer perspective going to happen is, today payments, while it has become frictionless and kind of going a little bit more in the background so that at least consumers are able to make the payments very swiftly, but I think we are not able to still really target the consumers in the right way, where we can significantly impact the consumer behavior or consumers' purchasing choice or completion of the purchase journey. So I think as we go forward, there will be a lot of payment-based marketing solutions that would be built that would be helping the conversion of the, or rather the helping the purchase journey of the consumers, right from identifying the intent of the customer to hand-holding them towards conversion, or sometimes also reviving the consumers on a platform.
All right.
So those are 2 major things I think over next few years we will see.
All right. So we also want to know a little bit more about your leadership style and your vision. Now, as a leader in this fast-paced fintech environment, how has your leadership style evolved over the years and to meet the demands of rapid technologies and advancements and market dynamics?
So, I think one thing, there are few key observations I had over the last 6 years. So just let me talk about few observations and go a little deeper into it. One is the point I mentioned about the market is extremely dynamic. The pace at things change is very, very fast. That's first. Second major change I have seen is, in general, the people who are now part of the teams or at Razorpay are of very different kind than what they used to be like about 5 or 6 years back. And the third major change I'm seeing, like from a single product company, how we became a multi-product company. Now, all these 3 observations had a lot of, if I look back, multiple ways in which I had to kind of look back and think about, okay, how do I change how I lead things? Now, earlier, from where I came from, a lot of leaders' responsibility was how do you review a team, how do you kind of really push teams to do more. But now I think it has become far more where you do not review a particular team, you kind of think about, okay, these are the major objectives that as cross-functional teams they have to do, and you start looking at, okay, how you are an enabler for those teams to work together and really do the best that they can do. And it's important because in a very fast-changing environment, it's almost impossible to have a top-down driven leadership. It has to be decentralized, it has to be empowered, it has to be inspirational based leadership. And to that effect, now we have multiple functions, multiple general managers within the company, where I operate more as a coach to them, more as a guide to them, rather than actually telling them what to do. I think that's one of the biggest change that has happened. I think second big change is from, as I said, from the people who were at the earlier part of my career worked with compared to where I work with whom I now work with. Those are fairly people who are the best in the work that they do. it will be difficult to find people who are better in the functional skill set.
Right.
For example, the people we might have in marketing, people we might have in sales, people we may have in operations, they are the best people that you would find in the industry. Now, as a leader, your job becomes not in terms of, again I said, reviewing them, but how do you become a big enabler for the vision of the company to align all these different leaders for a common purpose.
So what initiatives have you championed to nurture leadership within Razorpay, perhaps even in the broader fintech community?
In fintech community, like we do multiple things, and again, nurturing leaders could be from multiple perspective. We have Razorpay Ventures, we kind of help a lot of startup founders to really get capital to get their business started. So that's in a one way kind of, really helping the leaders out there. The second is we have a program called Razorpay Rise, where we work with a lot of startup founders to help them solve through some of the problems, help them brainstorm. In fact, a lot of us leaders at Razorpay has open office hours where startup founders can kind of block our time. Like if say I'm a specialist in say running a business, then I would spend say a couple of hours advising them how kind of they really think about increasing their revenue, how can they think about really perfecting that, how to kind of make their pitch very perfect to that specific customer segment. So that's one way where we spend our time. The ability to give strong feedback becomes very, very important. And I think that's we do really well. But again, when that is done, a lot of things foundationally has to be in place. You need to have the right trust with the person to whom you are giving the feedback. You need to do your job to know in detail about what the person has been doing, how others are seeing it, and therefore give the feedback, which is really people can consume and work on that. And then the coaching and all of those things work really well.
All right, so trust and a little bit of tough love there.
Yes, exactly.
So now, leadership, of course, often involves making tough decisions. As you just mentioned, sometimes you have to be brutal in your feedback. Can you share a challenging leadership lesson that you've encountered and how it perhaps influenced your approach as well?
See, most of the tough decisions either are to do with money or people, right, while running the businesses.
Right.
So I will take one example of money and probably second of people. I think as a fast-growing company, very innovative company, you end up doing a lot of experiments. And when you end up doing experiments, it's the nature of experiments that say 5 out of the 10 things will go wrong, and probably 2 will be mediocre, and 3 will be like really, really good. I think only with experience, and while theoretically it's easy to understand, I think only with experience I have been able to understand that, okay, some of the projects which are very, so probably some decisions, tough decision, right? Okay, if a particular initiative is not working too well, you should be kind of cutting it out there, kind of redeploying resources. So I think some of those are tough decisions because there are people who have worked on it for a year, give their best. In their perspective, things are well. But when you take a step back and think from an overall business sanity perspective, you think, okay, things are not going that well, and probably you have to be very realistic about, okay, whether we will be able to reach the ambition we have set for yourself or not. So I think that's about then going back and saying, okay, we are shutting it down, and that's kind of difficult to do.
Of course.
Because while we talk about it, I think, but in real practice, the concept of sunk cost does not register really well. I think that's one. You kind of take some of the decisions on people, which you know in a short term is going to be very, very difficult, but from a longer term perspective, it makes sense. So I think those are some of the tough decisions you go with.
All right, and we were talking about the disruptors and the disruptions that may come in the fintech industry as well. Where do you anticipate the most significant innovations or disruptions emerging from?
So I think, see, there are three different areas I see a lot of disruption is going to come. First is about how the entire marketing stacks get built on top of payment. How marketing evolved. Typically, it started with, say, a television or a newspaper ad where you're trying to kind of really influence a lot of consumer journey, a purchase behavior. Then came the entire digital era, where a lot of marketing was more focused towards how you can do, say, on the search on Google, how you can influence the consumers to to make their purchase decisions, either through organic marketing or performance marketing. And now I think we are going into a phase where it is going to become far more data-driven and contextual marketing. One of the challenges of the current marketing is that you can only kind of assume that, or you can only expect the intent of the consumer. If somebody has searched for, say, the fastest car, you can only assume, okay, they are thinking of buying a car, and then you start influencing their purchase decisions. But going ahead, I think the biggest disruption would be during their purchase journey. Say, if somebody has not thought about buying a car, is there a way that when they're looking at the different kind of car models, using some kind of data, understanding of their past purchase behavior, understanding of their overall, say, the financial kind of expendable income that they have, can you kind of start showing them different kind of models of the car? Once they're again further ahead where they're looking for, okay, now they have to make a payment, is there different ways of, say, financing option available? There are different ways of kind of, say, clubbing it with some kind of a holiday package. Is it possible to kind of really make the purchase decision, influence the purchase decision? So I think that's one big disruption is going to come from how the people are kind of how companies influence the purchase decisions of consumers, and this coupled with agentic AI probably will become far more disruptive. That's one part.
Right.
I think second, from a payment perspective, while a lot of disruption has happened and a lot of change had happened in the domestic payments, I think in the cross-border payments or rather international payments across different countries, India and some other country, I think still we are at a very early stages. Online payments have evolved a lot in the last several years. I think offline payments has continued to be the way they were several years back, except probably the UPI payments in the offline world. But still there's so much more that can be done from a loyalty perspective, from an affordability perspective, from a device innovation perspective, from a seamless kind of experience perspective in offline payments. And I think that's where another disruption would come.
All right. Now, of course, we've talked business. Let's switch gears now. Your role involves high-stakes decision-making on a daily. How do you decompress and maintain a healthy work-life balance amidst all the pressures?
I have a very different take on this, and maybe controversial one. I really don't believe in work-life balance, and I know it's a bit controversial these days. But the way I look at it, like, do you ever think of a question about how do you keep a balance between your relationship with your wife and your kids? You don't. Because it's not about that balance, it's about who you are as a person and how you kind of bring those things together. Those two things are not at conflict. The same way I think about work and personal life. Work is also a part of life. What I do outside work is also part of life, and both I kind of enjoy equally. So frankly, I do not look a lot in terms of whether weekends I have to work a bit. It's fine, like, because that's what I like. If weekdays I have to kind of sometimes not work, it's fine, because that's what someday I might like to get up early and do something which I like, which is outside work. So that's how I think about it. Having said that, I think the challenge comes in a slightly different way for me. Sometimes you might be either feeling too exhausted, or sometimes you might be feeling too uninspired. So you might be exhausted because kind of you have had a lot of hectic days, you are traveling a lot. So in those days, the way I kind of really do is go to gym, I go to swim, I take some time off, I kind of spend time with kids. And when sometimes I'm feeling uninspired, right, because so many things keep happening in the ecosystem. Typically I do two things. I would go and read some good inspiring book, or I would talk to somebody who kind of is really wise and good to talk to and kind of discuss some of those things, because it again brings the things back in perspective. So
also, Rahul, what do you think it is about Razorpay that really makes it stand out in this space?
I would say three things. First is I think vision of Razorpay itself is far more stronger than any of the other fintech companies doing out there. We say we will make end-to-end money movement seamless for businesses. And with this vision, we are directly hitting the challenge that most of the founders or the companies face. I think any other companies think about, they typically would be focusing on, okay, they will do great payments or they will do, say, great lending. But we are saying we will solve the end-to-end problem for a business. And I think that vision itself is very, very different for Razorpay, and it becomes a very big differentiator.
Rahul, thank you so much for joining us on The Business Masters. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of The Business Masters. Tune in again next time for more such insightful discussions. Thank you.